Well, hi everybody, I'm Erin Lebax. Welcome back to the High Value Writing channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. I'm glad to have you. Today we're going to be looking at a longer topic, a little bit more of an in-depth video like we did with the sentences video, and this one will be about writing a powerful, clear, and impactful paragraph. Many thanks to the students and faculty of Nangarhar and Kabul universities for requesting these topics and for working together with me. I'm glad to meet more of you today, and I hope you'll find this helpful. So today, once again, we'll be looking at how to write a paragraph that works really well for our readers and that is both clear and powerful. All right, so in today's video about paragraphs, you'll learn a few things to consider about the paragraphs you write. Number one, what are the goals? What are we trying to do anyway? What's the purpose of the paragraph? We want to think about that instead of just starting to write them. We'll start talking also about how to lead the paragraph off with a topic sentence so the reader knows right away what they'll be learning about and why. We'll talk about how to make sure that the paragraph flows. One thought leads logically to the next, so that the reader doesn't have to bounce around or get confused. And lastly, we'll talk about making sure that your paragraphs have examples or evidence if you've made any claims. And you can use this process with a paragraph for business writing or for academic writing. All right, so let's get into it. What does a strong paragraph do? What should these do for our readers? Remember, we're always thinking about the reader when we write, more than about ourselves. We're thinking from their perspective. What will we give our writer with a good paragraph? We'll make a point. We'll make sure they know what it is. We'll start by letting the reader know why that point matters. We'll make sure they know what we're talking about and why. We'll also make sure that the ideas in our paragraph connect. Not only do we focus on one topic that holds together cohesively or with unity, but we'll also make sure that when we lay out maybe 4 different ideas in a paragraph, that 1 leads to 2, leads to 3, leads to 4, without confusing the reader. And lastly, we'll look at that concept of supporting our claims with evidence when needed. All right, so here's an example of a paragraph that does some of what I've just talked about, that meets some of those goals. So I'll read through the paragraph briefly, and then we'll look at how it met some of those goals as an example. Based on our 2021 and 2022 student population, our department proposes adding 7 chemistry classes next semester. Although lab access has reduced, students continue to express interest in chemistry. Of those students surveyed, 35% said they would enroll in chemistry if possible. Because our student population also grew by 11% in 2021 and another 8% in 2022, we can expect even more students to register for chemistry classes next year. This data supports the idea of adding classes. So what happened in there? How did that paragraph example meet the goals we talked about? Well, first of all, it did lead with a topic sentence. It did lead by telling the reader, here's what we're going to talk about, chemistry classes, student population, and here's why it matters. We have more students, we need more classes. So we're trying to lead with those 2 ideas, as we'll get into a little bit in a moment. Secondly, it did provide data and evidence. Right? The writer of this paragraph did not just make a claim and then leave. They made a claim and they stuck around to support it with evidence, which we need to do anytime we've said something that could be an argument, opinion, or claim. Then we need to provide evidence. If we don't do that, this is less important. And then lastly, we can see how this paragraph was full of connections. So I've color-coded them here. This is a way to keep your reader aware of how your ideas connect in your paragraph. We'll get into it in just a moment. But you can see here that each sentence ends where the next one begins, or each sentence begins where the last one ended. So the first connection is about chemistry classes, the second connection is about students, the third is about population, and the fourth is about data. All right, so let's get into these steps. Okay, so we've talked about the goals of a strong paragraph. We've talked about what we want our paragraphs to do. So we're going to take 3 steps to get there. We're going to use a strong topic sentence. We're going to show how our ideas connect to one another, and we'll support any claims with examples and evidence. And this will really help our reader, these 3 steps, get through our paragraphs easily. So let's get started with writing a topic sentence. Okay, what is a topic sentence anyway? It's that first sentence in a paragraph that helps the reader know what the main point is and what the paragraph will be about and why it matters. So here I've put up a paragraph without a topic sentence so that we can be the readers and see how difficult it can be to read something that does not have a topic sentence to let us know what the paragraph is about and why we should care. So here we have often issues surrounding physical health also impact mental health. Unresolved mental health issues can also impact physical health. When diagnosing a patient, mental health evaluations should accompany physical health assessments. Okay, I did not start this paragraph with a sentence saying what it was about or why it mattered. I can still tell, okay, this paragraph is about 2 types of health and how they're related to one another. But it would have been nice if somebody would have told me in the beginning what this paragraph was for. So let's see how much easier it would be to read if we brought in a topic sentence. Okay, now we're starting with, and the paragraph's the same otherwise, right? Now we're starting with, because physical and mental health are interrelated, health practitioners should consider both when treating patients. Now that gives me an idea of why I'm here at the paragraph. Why am I reading it? What am I going to get out of it? Oh, I'm going to learn why we need to consider both at once and how they are interrelated. We can also notice how much easier it is to start reading the paragraph after that sentence is there. Because physical and mental health are interrelated, health practitioners should consider both when treating patients. Often, issues surrounding physical health also impact blah, blah, blah. So the topic sentence gets things rolling for us, and it lets us know, why are we reading this? Why should we care? Okay, let's look at the paragraph we started out with just a few minutes ago as an example. There was a topic sentence there. It was that idea of, based on our population in the last 2 years, our department wants to add 7 chemistry classes. That is letting us know, what is this about and why does it matter? Why do we need those classes? Oh, because we have so many students. We can imagine that if we had not said that and we had just written our paragraph with no topic sentence, we would lose that whole idea and have to figure it out later. We would just start with, although lab access has reduced, students continue to express interest in chemistry. That could be an okay topic sentence for a paragraph about people liking chemistry. But our paragraph is about wanting to add chemistry classes, a little bit different. So we really need to say that specific point in our topic sentence. Okay, so just to review, a strong topic sentence should tell your reader, what is this about? Tell your reader, why does this matter? And make sure the reader is ready to just walk into the paragraph and understand everything. You're setting them up for success. All right, let's look at a couple examples of a stronger or a weaker topic sentence. Looking at that idea, does the sentence tell me, the reader, what is this about and why would I care? A less strong sentence might be, hiring 3 new staff members is our goal. And then we could imagine the rest of the paragraph talking about why, which department, etc. Well, we would get to our goal a little bit better if we said, by hiring 3 new staff members, we can meet customer needs. That example showed why it matters, as well as just showing what my topic was. Here's another one. We should offer classes on emotional intelligence to our staff. Great idea, but that topic sentence, while probably making a point and giving the person's opinion, it doesn't say why it matters. What about emotional intelligence classes will help our staff resolve conflicts? That one might get a little more to the point of why this idea would matter. Lastly, it's required that all employees attend one of the available sessions. I'm still not sure why I should go, but if we say register for one required session to learn the history of our department, now I know both the point and the purpose. All right, so now we've started our paragraph with a strong sentence. We've helped the reader get situated and understand where they are, what they're about to read, why they're going to care. So that's great. We've started our paragraph really strong. But we don't want to lose our momentum. We still need the sentences within the paragraph to connect to one another logically so the reader doesn't feel like they're going all over the place. So we want to lead from our topic sentence nicely into sentence 2, into 3, into 4, into 5, etc. How can we show our ideas connect? By taking care to arrange our sentences so that the end of one sentence aligns with the beginning of the next. What we're doing here is we're ending a sentence with the reader thinking about whatever we ended with, and then we're beginning our next sentence on that same thought. So we know where our reader's mind is and we're keeping it there. We're not getting them lost. We start our second sentence thinking about that same topic from the first, and then we lead to something new. Let's see how that works. Let's compare a little bit about two sentences that don't connect as well and then changing it up so that they do. Without connection, and it's not horrible, but if I read these two sentences in a row, it could get a little confusing the way I currently have written it. Organizations using renewable energy may qualify for incentive programs. They can apply for grants or for energy credits at either the federal or state level. Okay, not too bad, but it's this word they that kind of has me hung up. I think they is about the organizations, but since it came right after the word programs, I'm not sure. Maybe they means the programs. I don't really know. It doesn't flow because the reader has to stop and think. We don't want that. We want things to be easy for our reader, making things flow so they never stop and get thrown off. What if we just reorged the words in paragraph 2 so that it flowed a little more out of paragraph 1? If we do that, we'll have organizations using renewable energy may qualify for incentive programs. Possible incentives include grants and energy credits. It was impossible for me to get lost that time because I ended sentence 1 thinking about incentives and I began my next sentence thinking about them again. So my brain never really left, and it was because of that possible incentives include. So let's look at an example of this idea all together. This idea that we will begin every sentence, except number 1, we'll begin every subsequent sentence with a reference to what the reader was already thinking about. Okay, let's look at this with an example that I confess I've made up about animal endangerment. But with the color coding here, you can see that idea that every new sentence after the first one begins with wherever the reader's brain already was. This is how we create flow. And so let's start and take a look at this with the blue animal examples. The EPA has declared a number of animal species endangered or protected. These animals often struggle to find safe places to live. What did I do there? I started with, hey, we've got animals in trouble, animal species. I called that back in my second sentence. It's like a word thread by starting with animals because that's where the reader already was. So I'll read through the rest and you'll see how that continues to happen. So with sentence 2 there, these animals often struggle to find safe places to live and need protected habitats. Because many habitats are under threat from builders, the EPA often pushes for new legislation to protect animal homes. Laws may include creating new wildlife refuges. So let me pause and give a couple comments here. Number 1, when we repeat the concept or call back whatever the reader was thinking about from the last sentence, it does not have to be the identical word. That could get repetitive. Notice with legislation and laws, they're different words, same concept. We just have to stay where the reader's mind was. It's okay if it's a different word. Second thing I want to point out, what do you think might come next? Following this pattern, what sentence would you put next? I'm thinking maybe about a sentence that says, animals who grow up in wildlife refuges enjoy greater longevity and reproductive success. Or refuges have been proven to support animal growth. Or something to that effect as I flow with what the reader is already thinking about. So let's look at a couple more examples of creating that sense of connection, that sense of flow between two sentences. All right, without much connection, we might put these two sentences together. The applicant has 10 years of HR experience. She will bring valuable new perspectives to our team because of this background. Not bad. We can kind of understand that she refers to the applicant. However, when I finished reading the first sentence, I was thinking about her experience. So if we can switch things around, we might be able to get a little more flow even. So let's do this. The applicant has 10 years of HR experience. Based on this background, she'll bring valuable new perspectives to our team. So sometimes you'll find that you can just swap the order of a few words to make sure that you have flow by keeping the reader thinking about one thing at a time before you lead to another. So one last example of how this would all look together. Research suggests that to improve retention, we must improve morale. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about how people need to feel happy and respected at work in order to stay. They have to have morale. That's on my mind. When employees feel engaged, oh yeah, I was already thinking about that. With their work and trusted by their leadership, they can perform to their potential. So we can see this is how we want to do it. We want to start sentences where the reader's mind already was. Okay, but there's one more thing you can keep in mind as you do this. When you're creating these word threads, this connection between the beginning of a new sentence with the end of the previous sentence, you may also want to use transitions. We don't always need them. I didn't use too many in those examples at all, and that's fine. We're just connecting the ideas and concepts. But when you need to show the relationship between ideas very explicitly and clearly, you might want to bring in one of these three types of examples. A transition to show, hey, I'm going to give you an example now. A transition to show that we are contrasting or two things are different. Or a transition to show that we are adding on or that two things are similar. Those transitions can help your readers understand the way your thoughts relate to one another in the paragraph. So let's look at an example of using this a little bit more. Our top applicant has 10 years of HR experience. Now, we already used this one, which was sort of an idea transition. Based on this background, this experience, she'll bring valuable new perspectives to our team. But now I'm going to use a couple specific transitions. For instance, she worked with employee engagement for 5 years. Furthermore, the onboarding training she created in her last job received very high evaluations from participants. Okay, so that's how we want to ensure that we're using idea transitions, making sure sentences connect through a concept. All right, so that's our second idea. We've got a strong topic sentence, and now we have the sentences within our paragraphs, each connecting to the next through that word thread. Okay, everybody, so what we have now is a paragraph that's kind to our reader. They've got a topic sentence to show them why they're there, and they're experiencing flow as they read. They're not getting confused. They're following you quite easily. So our last thing is to make sure that when we've claimed anything, if we have claimed anything as an opinion or an argument, that we prove it, right? It is possible that you have a paragraph that's not about claiming or proving things, but often we are writing with some kind of claim or opinion. So let's support that with evidence and examples. We saw that earlier when we talked a little bit about that idea of morale. Let's look at that example I had earlier and extend it in to see what would it be like to support this with evidence. Research suggests that to improve retention, we must improve morale. We saw that earlier when we talked about flow. When employees feel engaged with their work and trusted by their leadership, they can perform to their potential. We've been flowing, but we haven't been proving. So here it comes. In a recent study on trust and engagement at work, 68% of respondents say they feel more motivated when they feel trusted by their supervisors. Now, yes, you would also put in the reference there. Maybe you're using APA and you'd have a footnote. Maybe you need to just say the name of the author. Maybe you need to provide the link. It depends on what you're writing. Here, I'm just using it as an example of the writing itself. But what we see here is not only data, evidence, 68%, but we're still using flow, talking about that idea of motivation, which flows with that concept of engagement. So we can put flow and evidence together pretty easily when we write paragraphs. So how can we support our claims? What types of evidence will work? Sometimes we actually need a story, an anecdote, something anecdotal that provides an example, or data that provides an example, one specific incident or something like that. Often, though, data comes in the form of our evidence, percentages, facts and figures, or maybe we reference another study, or maybe we reference somebody with expertise. Those are some ways that you can provide that evidence when you think you've claimed something that you need to then support. Couple examples of supporting with examples. Examples of examples. Anecdotal, story or real person. Our data aligns with previous studies in 2018 and 2020. And by the way, these are all just examples that I am making up and not always proving, right? This is about a study in Tehran that I'm sort of referencing as a made-up example, okay? In one experiment, researchers in Tehran encountered 3 issues with the gathered data. So I'm providing an anecdote to support the idea that we have issues with the data. I could also say our data aligns with these previous studies, and then reference a couple of studies in Science magazine or other places and reference those numbers that the findings in Science showed an increase of 34%. Our findings were 29% increase, and those two correspond or align. Evidence, I'll put a few into this example at once. The idea of data, the idea of referencing a study, and the idea of referencing someone's expertise, okay? Amphibians in the western part of the state enjoy higher rates of reproductive success than those in the south. Both Biology Weekly and the Smithsonian have reported similar findings. A 2019 study in England, referencing another study, also discovered a 6% difference in reproductive success depending on region and habitat. So we've put in that support for our sentences. And lastly, I'll just give us a quick bonus. After we've done all of that, it's possible that you want to have some kind of concluding phrase. In fact, I thought of that with the idea of the amphibians, because at the end, it comes back to that idea of reproductive success. So sometimes at the end of our paragraphs, we'll want to do a bonus step and wrap it all up. We did this in the very beginning of this video. When we looked at the idea of proposing more chemistry classes, I concluded that paragraph with all this data that you just learned supports the idea of adding classes. And so that can make sure you wrap that up for your reader. So to review, strong paragraphs lead with a topic sentence, show how ideas connect, provide support for claims, and conclude when needed. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you learned some ways to ensure that your paragraphs are strong, whether you're writing for business or for school. If you like what you're learning, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. We've got new information coming to you about once or twice a week. I'll see you soon.